Hello, everyone. I am Sean, and welcome once again to my Horror Corner. As always, thank you so much for watching today. I really do appreciate that. Thank you to everybody who's been subscribing, your support, your encouragement, you guys helping me share my channel, share the videos. You guys are the absolute best. So thank you all so much. I'm going to give you a quick heads up as we get ready to get started today. Still dealing with kidney stones. I have passed one out of the six that I had, so I'm now down to five, but also still still medicated. So yeah, doing the best I can, and but this is going to be fun today. I'm so excited to welcome back Isaiah from the Bitter Wolf. Isaiah, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, and thank you to your kidney stone. Hopefully, your other five kidney stones will wait until the end of this conversation. But
Oh,
if
I know
not,
that would
well,
be
I'll be
really
there for
awkward.
you.
I appreciate that. Yeah, if I suddenly take off my headphones and start running, then the show is yours. I'll be back at some point. So yeah,
I
these
hope
things are. Have
I
you
hope
ever
you
had kidney
recover. I
stones?
can't. No, but it's like, God damn it! It sounds so horrible to me. Um, just based on what I've read and based on people who I know who've experienced it. But I'm like, Sean, I would not be here right now. I would be in bed. I would have a mountain of blankets that I was sitting on top of. I would milk it for all it's worth.
You know, maybe I've had kidney stones in the past. This is probably the fifth time I've dealt with kidney stones. However,
Oh,
this is the
okay.
first time that I've had multiple at the same time. In the past, it's just been one, which is still hurts like hell. But I've been fortunate enough to one is the day I found out, I passed it the same day. There was another time I got one, I passed it within about 3 or 4 days. So I've had them before, but typically it doesn't last this long. I woke up, and I know people that are watching this are absolutely loving this medical episode that we're doing, but I woke up 2 weeks ago today at 4 o'clock in the morning in so much pain. I couldn't even walk. I like
Yeah.
crawled to the bathroom. I go to the bathroom and I've got like blood coming out, and I'm like, oh my God. So, but from the pain, I mean, I basically knew what it was. I had to drive myself to the emergency room. Spent several hours in the emergency room. They put me on morphine. They did their thing and figured out what it was. And then, but they didn't do a scan to figure out how many there were or exactly where they were at. They just were like, "You've got another kidney stone. That's what's going on. Here's what you need to do." That kind of thing. So about a week later, I had started really cutting into the medication that they had given me. Plus, I hadn't passed anything. And the pain was just incredible. I'm like, this is horrible. This is the worst this has ever been. So I end
Yeah.
up back in an emergency room and they do a scan. And they even did like I'm totally forgetting the word. They do it for women when they're pregnant. They rub the little thing on their belly. I
Ultrasound.
can't remember what. Thank you so much. My God. Yeah,
Yeah.
medication is affecting my brain. The ultrasound, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you have six. You've got three on the right and three on the left." And I'm like,
Ooh.
"Okay."
Ooh.
And they're like, "That explains why you're in so much pain." And I was like, "Yeah, that
Jeez.
does explain it." So,
I
yeah,
can't imagine.
I've had a lot of strong pain medication as well as some other medication to hopefully help me get these out. And so far, we've passed. I passed one in this 2 week time frame. Now I've been off work, but effective Friday, I'm out of sick time. So Friday, I go back to work, and yeah, we're just gonna see what happens.
Jeez, well, I hope that they pass soon.
Yeah,
My
me
dog
too.
my dog had bladder stones earlier this year, and it's
Oh
like
wow.
dogs hide their pain very well until it gets really
Yeah.
serious, and so I had no idea with her until it started to be we were taking her a very long time to pee, and so I was just felt awful because whenever they did the surgery, after we figured out that was the issue, and they pulled out, they said she had just a bladder full of stones, and he was like, I have no idea how she even had any pee in there, you know?
Oh wow.
So it's like, it just sounds so painful. So I hope that you're able to pass everything. I hope that none of them end up being something out of Attack of the Killer Kidney Stones um,
I'm
or
telling you,
something
man,
like that.
maybe. It almost feels like I've been in a horror movie here lately, just dealing with all this because it's
Uh,
crazy. I'm either in so much pain that I can barely walk, or I'm incredibly medicated and basically high. I mean, it's one of the two things is what's been going on. But I've been able to record several episodes. I've done a couple by myself. Brendan and Sam from Our Life in Horror were on with me and recorded with me while I was on medication. Just recently, Robbie and Kaylee from that horror couple were on with me, and they recorded
Yeah.
with me while I was medicated. And now you're getting to record with me while I'm medicated. So yeah,
Is this gonna be
everybody's getting to see what it's
second
like.
channel? Sean is medicated, heavily medicated
Yes.
too.
Yeah, I'm gonna change it. It's not going to be Sean's Horror Corner. It's gonna be Medicated Sean. It's just gonna be the name of the show going forward. Medicated Sean.
Sean's
So
Horror
yeah,
Hospital. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So yeah, thank you everybody for tuning in to Sean MD. I'm so glad that you watched this today. We will get started. Isaiah and I today are going to be talking about, no, it's not Christmas time, but it's getting close. And so we're going to be talking about an absolute classic. We're going to be talking about Black Christmas from 1974.
Yeah.
Super excited to talk about this one. This is such a, spoiler alert. I typically try to keep my overall opinion of the movie somewhat to myself until I get to the end, but I'm going to go ahead and say that I absolutely love this movie. We'll just start with that. This movie being fairly old, you and I were talking a little bit before we started recording. So, do you remember how old were you when you saw it the first time? Any idea or what your reaction to it was the first time you saw it?
That's a good question, actually. I think I was a little later in life whenever I saw it for the first time compared to a lot of horror fans. I mean, um, I think it was in college, so late 2000s, probably like
Okay.
2008, 2009 or something like that. But I was scared. I was terrified, actually. And it was one of the
Okay.
reasons it catapulted up on the list of favorite movies, but we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Sure.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
like, oh yeah, I'll tell you why it scared me a little bit later because that's a good story too. But yeah,
Okay.
wow, great.
Okay. Very cool. Well, we probably saw it then about the same time. Like you, I didn't see it till later on. I had heard of it. I knew vaguely about it, but for one reason or another, and I really couldn't tell you why, I never saw this movie. And then in 2006, the remake came out. And I don't want to spend a whole lot of time talking about the remake, but when that movie came out, I had seen the trailer and I was like, oh, that looks really good. I'm going to have to go check this out. So I went to the theater, I saw it. I absolutely loved it. And then later I get home and I'm like, I need to see the original. I mean, I saw the remake before the original. That's crazy. I've got to go back and watch this original at some point. So I finally
Yeah.
did. I went back and watched the original. And yeah, I liked it. But I think I was just, I don't know why. Can't really explain it to you. At that time, I liked the remake better. The first time that I
Okay.
watched
Yeah.
the original, I liked the remake better. I'm like, okay, the original's fine, but and I think what it came down to for me is try to decide how to word this. The remake is fun. The
It
original is
is.
terrifying.
Yeah, that's true.
So I
That's a good
think I
point.
like I think I liked the remake better just because it was so fun. And I've talked about before, that's part of the reason I want my horror movies to be fun for the most part.
Yeah.
That's why I'm not really into slow burns and things like that. Some of them are really good, but they're just not my favorites because I want fun. And so
Mm.
that remake was just so much fun to me, and the original was pretty dark. So I was like, no, I like the remake better. And I'm a huge everybody that knows me fairly well knows that I'm a huge Crystal Lowe fan from the remake. I really like her, and
Yeah.
so that probably added to it as well. And so for years, then I tried to stand on this pillar of the remake is better than the original, while everyone around me told me I was a complete idiot. But I was like, no, it's just the way it is. But as
Yep.
time went on, the more I went back and watched the remake, watching it a second time, I mean, sorry, the original a second time, a third time, it just really began to finally grab me. And I'm like, this is such a good movie. I mean, it's creepy, it's intense, it's dark, and while that remake is more fun, I still say the original's better. I've finally come around to
Okay.
admit that the original is better, in my opinion now. I still love the remake. Both of them I watch every year around Christmas time. The third one, not so much. The 2019 movie I've seen a couple of times. Yeah. It's
Wow.
nowhere near on the same category as these two for me. I don't completely hate it. There are a few scenes in it that I like. It's tolerable, but it's not something that I'm going to go back and rewatch unless I'm doing a review on it or going on someone else's channel to do it. I'm not just going to
Yeah.
pop it in on my own, that kind of thing. So,
Yep, that's a
I don't
good
know what
point.
your thoughts are about this whole franchise, but that's kind of how I stand on it. What about you?
Yeah,
You like
that's you might have convinced me to come back because earlier we were talking about are we going to talk about all three of these movies on
yeah.
here, and I said I'll come back to talk about the second one, but I'm not coming back. No, for the third one. Uh, but you should do things for your friends. So
Fair enough.
yeah, and maybe I haven't seen it since 2000. Uh, it's been like 5 years, so maybe it's gotten
Okay.
maybe it's gotten
Yeah, how about
better
that?
since then.
I feel like the last time you and I were on, we talked about the Pope's Exorcist, and then
Yeah.
talking about this today. I feel like we had a pretty fun conversation about the Pope's Exorcist. I think we're going to have a great conversation about this today, if and when the time comes that we talk about the 2019 Black Christmas. Might be a short episode. We may not have as much fun things to talk
No,
about,
it'll
but
be
we'll see.
fun. It'll be so much fun. We'll talk
Yeah.
about Carrie Ellis is in that. I like him a lot.
Yes,
We'll
I do
talk
like him.
about the
Yeah.
Princess Bride. We could talk about Saw. We could talk about all kinds of stuff.
That's right. There are little side trails we could take. So yeah, that might work.
Yeah, yeah,
All
exactly. We
right.
could
Well,
talk
we will
about
get into.
kidney
Oh yeah, go ahead.
stones. We could do a
Yes,
follow-up episode about your
man.
kidney stones.
If I'm still dealing with kidney stones by the time we get to the third movie in this franchise, something's wrong. Something is
It is
really
Attack of
wrong.
the Killer Kidney.
I'm
You turned
telling you.
into a kidney stone.
Yeah, that is not going to be cool if I'm still dealing with this when that time comes. But
Oh my
yeah,
god! It's like the Pope's kidney stone has possessed you at
yeah,
that point.
pretty much. Yeah, yeah. Somebody take me out if I'm still dealing with them. Then I don't need that anymore.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Well, we will get into this today, and I apologize that some of the medicine I'm taking makes my mouth incredibly dry, so I just keep getting a drink. So yeah, I apologize if that bothers anybody. But let's talk about Black Christmas from 1974. Real quick, tagline: if this picture doesn't make your skin crawl, it's on too tight. Brief synopsis for the film: as the residents of Pi Kappa Sigma sorority house prepare for the festive season, a stranger begins to harass them with a series of obscene phone calls. The movie was released October 11th, 1974 in Canada, and then December 20th of 1974 in the United States. Directed by Bob Clark, written by Roy Moore, produced by Bob Clark, cinematography by Reginald Morris, music by Carl Zitter, I believe is how you say that. Distributed by Ambassador Films. Runtime of 98 minutes, $686,000 budget, $4 million at the box office, so did incredibly well. Rotten Tomatoes scores 70% from critics, 76% from the audience. I was surprised those weren't a little higher, honestly. IMDb score 7.1 out of 10. Cast for the film: Olivia Hussey, Keir Dullea, I believe is how you say it, Margot Kidder, and John Saxon. Nick Mancuso also uncredited as playing Billy. Let's start there. What do you think about the characters in this film and the cast, the performances?
Perfect. I think this is. Well, I won't give you my rating until later, but I think
Sure.
it's pretty hard for me to find errors in this movie. I think it's perfectly
Okay.
cast. The characters aren't people that I would hang out with myself personally, but I think they were well developed characters, and they're the types of characters that you would expect to find inside of a. I almost said nursing home. What's the word I'm looking for? A sorority house.
Sorority house. Yeah.
Nursing
Well,
home
I mean, this was
massacre
made in
Kansas City.
1974. Some of them might be in a nursing home.
Some of them are way out of that nursing home and under the nursing home right
Yeah,
now.
unfortunately.
But
Yeah.
it's an old ass movie now. But yeah, no, I think
is.
it's great. I absolutely love. Should I tell you which characters I love in particular?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Absolutely love Mrs. Mack. I think she's really funny. I also relate to her because she's the comic relief, but obviously she's
Right.
hiding serious issues because she's like hiding liquor bottles around everywhere.
Right.
And it's like played up for laughs as it normally is. But it's just like Bob Clark's humor to put something that's actually quite serious, which is like she's alcoholism, which is a disease. And
Right.
as someone who's dealt with it, who deals with that, um, uh, it's like that's the exact way that a lot of people respond to it, which is so.
Mhm.
I think it's like it's really good filmmaking because it's very subtle, and her character is not there for a super long time, but it just shows
Right.
you how he's so attuned to details like that, and you could have a fully well-rounded character even without them telling you this person's an alcoholic. Alcoholics have serious problems, and she's being really funny to mask those problems. So it's,
Right.
I think that's great filmmaking. So I
Yeah.
love
No, I
Mrs.
completely
Mac,
agree.
and I like Jess. But you, what about you? What do you think of the characters?
So I'm right there with you, and I mean, feel free. You can keep talking. I'm not worried about that at all. Because people hear me enough on this channel, so that's part of the reason I have guests. But yeah, I agree with you. Now I'll tell you that is something. My appreciation for this film has grown over time. My appreciation for some of the characters has also grown over time, because I will
Yeah.
say right off the bat, you mentioned something. Um, that kind of goes back to me comparing this to the 2006 remake a little bit. And again, I don't mean to keep doing that, but you mentioned that you like these characters, but you wouldn't hang out with these characters. I
Yeah.
remember making that exact statement to someone
Oh God.
when we were comparing the two films, because I was like, the girls in the remake, in the 2006 remake, they seem fun. I would hang out with them. That would be a blast.
Yeah.
Are they the best people? No, probably not, but they seem like they'd be fun to hang out with. These
Yeah.
people do not seem like they would be fun to hang out with the exception of maybe Barb, and even she might be a little bit too much.
Right. Barb in small
But
doses.
I,
Barb at a party like that where you can escape.
yes,
So
yes,
well,
but
escape to some degree.
at the same time, I do really like the Barb character. And again, I don't want to get ahead of myself here, but you mentioned, Miss Mac for the comedic relief. So, and you may know this already, but Bob Clark, once they got this initially put together, that's the one thing he felt like it might be a little bit too dark. And so he made the
Mm.
addition of the Miss Mac character, which
Oh,
he also based on his own aunt. That's where a lot of
okay.
that character came from. But and then some of the things Barb does, Bob Clark input those two things for some comedic relief into the film. So the entire character of Miss Mac, and then some of the stuff Barb does, Bob Clark added to get some humor in there as well.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so but I do like the Barb character. I think part of the reason is because to me, and this is going to be my age and also showing that I'm a superhero nerd, but Margot Kidder is Lois Lane.
Yeah,
She
yeah,
was
yeah.
Lois, in the original Superman movies back with Christopher Reeve, that kind of thing. And so that's how I
Yep,
knew her. I had seen those before I saw this. And so I remember thinking that the first time I watched this, I'm like, oh wow, Lois Lane is in this movie. So
yep.
I like loved Margot Kidder. I've seen her in multiple things before she passed away. I really liked her. Also a big fan of John Saxon. I had seen him in a few things. My
Oh,
dad
yeah.
was a fan of his. I had seen him in an old Bruce Lee movie, believe it or not, at one point. And then, of course, he's Nancy's dad in A Nightmare on Elm Street. So I like. I think the performances are fantastic in this movie. The one thing that I was talking about when I said that I feel like some of my appreciation for the characters has grown a little bit would be the character of Jess. And
Hmm.
here's why I say that, because the first time I saw this movie, and maybe even the second time, I didn't think I liked her as a character. She seemed she seems odd to me a little bit. And I couldn't decide if that was the character or if that was the performance or what, but something about that character bothered me the first couple of times I watched the movie. But I feel like the more I've watched it, and now that I've seen it and maybe grown up a little bit where I could appreciate other things, I can put myself more when you look at everything she's going through, not just with this phone caller and how crazy he is, but also in her own life that we'll get into here in a little bit. I think Olivia Hussey did a great job
Hmm.
of projecting someone that was just overwhelmed basically with everything that was going on. So my appreciation did grow there tremendously. So yeah, but I mean, I rambled quite a bit there, but I think everybody does a fantastic job. And while it's not the kind of people that I would want to hang out with, they're still characters that you get invested in, I feel like.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they're really well written. They're really well developed, and really well acted, of course, by everyone who's involved in this movie. And Barb is super memorable, as you said, and and I also came from the same background with Lois Lane. That's who
Right.
Lois Lane was whenever I was growing up, and so that's who I thought of whenever I first saw it. And so it's kind of jarring to see her playing this character because it's a little bit more like aggressive, I guess, than
Right.
Lois Lane. But she nails that role. And the one thing I think about with is it Jess who has the sweater with the oranges on it? Do you know what I'm
I
talking
think so.
about?
Yeah.
Okay, this is really just a random segue, but there was one Christmas where I was like, we're all getting silly gifts for each other, so I was like, oh, I've never got an ugly sweater before for my mom, so I'm gonna get. We went to the store and I found the thrift store and I found this insane. I was like, that thing is so ugly, and I bought it and gave it to her. And she opened it and she just started cracking up. And I was like, okay, it's funny, but it wasn't as funny as she was
Right.
laughing about. And I was like, yeah, ha ha ha, okay, what is it? And then she showed me it was one of those orange things like that. And I didn't even see
Okay.
the orange on there whenever I had gotten it. I looked around. I said, all the other elements are ugly. I didn't even see the oranges. And so I was
Right.
like, oh, that's kind of,
That is funny. That's awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, I think just to say it again, I think Margot Kidder was such an amazing actress, and having seen her first as Lois Lane, and we've had so many Superman movies since then, and I won't make this about Superman, but uh, every time I see somebody that's supposed to be Lois, I'm like, okay, but no, Margot Kidder is going to be my Lois Lane probably forever. I mean, that's just what I
Right.
think of. But I'm like you said, I saw her in that, and then to come back and see her in this, or even she's in the original the Amityville Horror. To see her in Black
Yeah.
Christmas and the Amityville Horror is just so different than seeing her as Lois Lane. But I think she pulled it all off. I mean, she does everything that she was in. She did fantastically, in my opinion. I think she's such a great actress. And
Yep.
one of the things that I'll mention here too, because we're talking about the the sweater. I think this movie. I sometimes think people think I'm crazy when I talk about certain things because this movie looks so I don't want to say dirty, but it just looks very bleak, maybe is the word that I'm looking for. But at the
Yeah.
same time, I think it's so beautifully shot. And
Yep.
being someone who grew up in the late 70s and into the 80s, seeing some of the setup, seeing the way certain things look, the way certain people dress, seeing some of that, I remember that. Like I remember those kind of times. But even one of the things I appreciate from these older films that I think films today miss a lot of times is when you watch movies that come out today, very seldom, not always, but very seldom do we have characters that uh, seem to be struggling financially or seem poor or seem everything's always so neat and tidy and
Yeah.
everybody's dressed
That's
so
true.
well and everything looks so beautiful, that kind of thing. Houses are always so fancy. I mean, everything's just, which is okay, that's fine. This
Yeah.
movie doesn't look like that, and I appreciate that so much because even the outside of the police station looks beat up. It looks rough, and when they're in there and the house, yes, they're in this big sorority house, but it's it's kind of cluttered and it's just not the prettiest thing. I mean, there's all kinds of
Yeah.
crazy stuff around. Not everything matches and goes together, but it just looks so natural to me. And I think that's one of the things that I appreciate about this movie. Again, not to get ahead of myself, but I feel like this is a movie where not only can you relate to these characters, but this movie feels it almost feels like you're watching something that really happened. It doesn't feel as much like a movie as maybe some other things do. When you see that remake in 2006, yeah, you're watching a movie. But this just feels so real to me. It's kind of the same thing as and they came out the same year, but the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Part of the reason that I think that movie works and is so scary, and you and I are going to talk about that in October, but part of the reason is because it feels so real to me. It feels like
Hmm.
I'm there, like I'm experiencing that with those characters. I think this movie is very similar. It just feels
Yeah.
so real, like you're seeing something that really happened, and that's one of the things that has made my appreciation for this grow. I think it's so beautifully shot. I think the cinematography is outstanding. Even the score is very loud and it's very sudden
Yes.
sometimes.
Yep.
Very similar to Billy, the moaner as they call him initially when he's on the phone calls. He's very loud
Very
sometimes,
loud.
very abrupt. The score seems to mirror him, and I think it's just so great. Some movies the score never really even gets my attention. This does, and I just think, yeah, I think it's beautifully shot. Cinematography's great. The score is fantastic. The performances are good. Uh, yeah, I mean, I'm already telling you what I think about it before we get into the plot, but just so many good things about this, in my opinion.
Yeah, I totally concur with all that stuff. And there's specific things about, I don't know if you want to hold off on specific things about like cinematography or
No,
music or
go ahead. We
whatever.
we can talk about
But
cinematography and score right now. Yeah, go ahead.
okay, yeah. One of the things I love in the cinematography in this is I think well, you referenced like this feeling of dirtiness, and I think it's kind of like a, because the house isn't dirty or anything. It's not like in
Right.
a
Yeah, that's
neighborhood
why I wasn't
that's,
sure if that was a good
it's
word.
not. No, I know what you're saying, but I know what you're saying because it's kind of, it's not like how it looks. I think it's, even though it feels that way, but it's more about how it feels, and it kind of feels that way. And I think it's because the themes are a lot darker than you would expect from a movie titled Black Christmas, even though it's
Right.
in the title,
Yeah.
and it's telling you that it's going to be very silly and it's going to be very dark as well.
Right.
So I think there's a bit of that going on in there. It's uh, wait, what were we talking about? The scene?
The cinematography and the score. We were talking about the
Yeah.
score and
Oh,
how
we were
sudden the
talking. I was
music. Yeah.
going. Yeah, I was talking about the cinematography to start
Yeah.
out.
How maybe dirty wasn't the right word, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Gritty was kind of what I was thinking of because it's like a
Okay.
mixture of the themes, and
That's a good word
then
for it. Yeah.
the language that he's using whenever he's on the phone, and it's so
Oh, I
like
know.
offensive and like it just like really, it just goes a lot harder than you would expect every single time. I think even down to the kills are really uncomfortable to watch because they get drawn out, and you're all
Yeah.
up in their face a lot of the times when they're doing things. So I think it's a
Right.
combination of all of this to make you feel really uncomfortable. And so dirty, I'm not saying dirty is the wrong word to describe it. I'm just trying to figure out why are we using the word dirty. And I think it's because it makes you feel dirty in a way,
Yeah. I think that's a good point.
um, when you're watching it. So that's partly because I didn't understand why I loved it so much for a long time, and I think it's because of that reason. It's like gives you such a real, like you were saying, this quality of
Yes.
realness feeling, and that
Yes.
is like, you just feel something that's real,
Right.
basically.
Right.
I love it.
And you mentioned the the phone calls and the way he's talking, and that seems to escalate throughout the movie. But it's just it makes you uncomfortable. I mean, I'm a guy. I've had all kinds of conversations with other guys, about all kinds of things. But and I'm not the kind of person, I do not get easily offended whatsoever, or really even uncomfortable that much. You can pretty much say whatever, and I'm going to be like, yeah, okay, whatever. But these phone calls make me uncomfortable still. I mean, I've seen this movie multiple times, and every
Yep.
time with some of the things he's saying, I'm just like, oh my god, seriously.
Yep.
And so I can imagine, and I'm feeling that way in 2025. I'm
Right.
sure in 1974 people's mind were blown.
Can you imagine being alive in the 70s? Let's say like the 70s. Hey, if you're a horror fan out there in the horror community, go on the Tubi.com and check out their treasure trove of 70s movies because there's so much good shit out there. And if you really want something that's going to make you feel like this feeling that we're talking about, something real and
Right.
usually dirty, it's got that grittiness to it, like Last House on the Left is something that I think
Right.
of.
Yeah,
um,
that's another one. Yeah.
Go to Tubi for other movies like this. Okay, that was just a little segue.
No, I think you're right on, and that's why. That's part of the reason why I was looking forward to talking about this one with you, and I think it's great that you and I are doing this one, and then next month we're going to be doing Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because these movies, not just because they came out the same year, but to me, they mirror each other so much in that feeling that they give you,
Yep.
of just feeling like you're seeing something that really happened, and feeling dirty and feeling gritty and just feeling uncomfortable. Because I feel like that's maybe one of the best words to describe this movie, is it's so uncomfortable, but yet
Hmm.
it's so good,
Yep.
if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know at the time. I'm not like, well, I guess Psycho did this before, but the idea of being the making the audience feel kind of like a voyeur because you're in there with Billy checking out all this
Right.
stuff and seeing all these things. And part of the violence of Billy's announcements on the phone is the fact that he's invading their space totally
Right.
unexpectedly and saying really violent things about and misogynistic sexual things about women, and
Right.
just saying it to them without any sort of like you're just gonna accept it, you know. And
Right.
so I think that's part of the discomfort too, because you're in there. Sometimes you're in the attic with Billy prowling around, and you hear
Yeah.
his horrible breathing, um,
Right.
which just fills you with so much dread and discomfort as well. So yeah, like you said, the sound design is so fucking good in this movie. It's
Like,
so
yeah.
good. And that's part of the horrifying experience of watching this movie. If you've never seen it before, watch it. If you've never seen it before, you're not listening to this. But but if for some reason you are, then go watch it because you'll never get some of these sounds out of your head. But worse than
I
that, you'll
know.
never get some of these images out of your head, which we'll
I
talk
know.
about.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. A couple of behind the scenes things real quick, and we'll start walking through the plot. So the author, again, Roy Moore, who wrote the screenplay after being inspired, one, by the urban legend of the babysitter and the man upstairs, but he was also inspired by a series of murders that actually took place in Montreal, Canada. Murders that took place in 1943, in which a 14-year-old boy had bludgeoned to death several members of his family. Um, his original screenplay was titled Stop Me. Um, and then producers came in, and with that screenplay, they changed it up a little bit to give it the university setting. And then, as we mentioned, Bob Clark then came in and added the humor of Barb being drunk from time to time and Mrs. Mack. Gilda Radner, I don't know if too many of my listeners are going to be familiar with her. I'm not sure if you know who Gilda Radner is or not, but a
Yeah,
Saturday Night Live alum. Um, she was originally offered and accepted the role of Phil or Phyllis in this film. Was going to
perfect.
do it, but then had to drop out due to some Saturday Night Live commitments. Um, that blows my mind. I have a hard time picturing her in this movie, but okay.
I could see
Um,
her in that character though. It's like kind of the
yeah,
perfect casting.
right. Yeah, I completely agree. Margot Kidder stated that shooting this film was a lot of fun, but that her and the other actresses did give Olivia Hussey a hard time. Margot Kidder said that Olivia Hussey seemed very odd, and that she was obsessed with falling in love with Paul McCartney because her psychic told her that she was going to fall in love with Paul McCartney. And so apparently Olivia Hussey talked about Paul McCartney all the time because of her psychic, and Margot Kidder and them, took jabs at her about it. So I was just like, "Wow, that's crazy." I would have never
Okay.
imagined. But yeah,
Well, they were taking jabs. She was taking dabs of something,
exactly.
um,
Yeah,
and dreaming of Paul McCartney. I think
yeah.
that's great.
It's just funny to me. Warner Brothers wanted the ending of the film to be with Chris actually being the killer, Jess's boyfriend, but Bob Clark disagreed and wanted it to be a little bit more mysterious, and then go a different route.
Mm,
Um, just a couple of more things. The title was changed initially. It was released in Canada as Black Christmas, but it was first released in the U.S. as Silent Night, Evil Night, and then restored shortly thereafter to the title of Black Christmas. The film was supposed to have a television premiere on January 28th, 1978, but was removed because 2 weeks prior to the premiere, two students were killed at Florida State University. They were murdered while they were sleeping, and then other students were also attacked. The killer of those two students was later revealed to be Ted Bundy, which I'm sure a lot of people who know the true crime stuff know who Ted Bundy is. So Ted Bundy caused them to not put this movie on TV when they planned because of the things that he was doing. So just a few
I didn't know
interesting
that.
facts there that, yeah,
Wow.
just a few interesting things there that I found when doing some research about the movie. Stuff like that always entertains me. I don't know if it entertains the people that listen to me or if they fast forward when I do that, but I find it entertaining.
I think, Sean, I think you could have a show where you talked for like 9 hours and people would listen to the whole thing. They wouldn't listen the whole time, but they would be hearing you because your voice is very soothing.
Oh,
So
well, thank you. I appreciate that.
there you go.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I don't know what to attribute that to, but yeah, I'll take it.
There you go.
All right. Well, we will get into the plot now. I'll just mention a couple of things, and then I'm just going to kind of ask you your thoughts and opinions as you're going through this and watching this. I do love the opening to this film as we kind of get this killer's POV, this unseen guy outside, kind of going around the house and then even crawling up the house. Then we get an obscene phone call taking place inside, and then we pretty quickly get to the first death where Claire gets attacked and killed. What were your thoughts on the opening, the first phone call, and this first death in the movie?
Yeah, it's a great way to start. And the tracking shot following it's like a mixture of that sound design with the creepy breathing. It was the first time in my movie viewing experience, maybe not the first time that I'd seen it that I could remember, but the first time I remembered noticing it. And it was so disturbing because it's just like you feel like it's coming from you. And I think that's why it's so disturbing, because it's like beyond just loud. It's like it feels like it's engulfing the camera, like the camera's stuck inside the dude's throat or something.
Right.
So it's a good sound, and that's part of what makes it so creepy. And then he's like, you don't know what's going on. Is he like rappelling up with the rope? Is he super strong and he's just doing this? What's going on here, and why is he looking in? So it reminded me of a shot in Argento's, is it Deep Red or is it Tenebrae? I can't remember. Have you seen those movies?
I've seen Deep Red, and that does sound familiar. I haven't seen the other one you mentioned, but that might be Deep Red because that sounds familiar now that you say that.
You know, I'm talking about the shot outside where it goes on forever, and it seems like it's like looking at all these different things through the window outside. It kind of reminds me of that, and I can't remember if I got that connection from somebody else or if I just made that naturally. I can't remember now.
That's pretty
But
good.
but it's a really cool shot. So I think it's a great way to get you into that house with him and with those characters and start getting you feeling that creepy feeling that you hold on to throughout the entire movie. And then you get the phone call, and that phone call is just wrong. It's like the worst. I'm sure there's a million of these lists out there in the horror community about worst phone calls. And by worst, we mean best.
Yeah.
Because this one is up there. It just chills you to the bone.
Oh, I completely agree. Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. It's a great start. It establishes that creepy feeling from the very beginning. Again, it looks really good. It does automatically make you wonder about this guy and how he's doing, what he's doing, and what is going on. So I agree with everything you said. I also I like the first kill because and one more thing behind the scenes on that, I didn't make a note of it, but I remember it now. So I can't remember the actress's name that plays Claire, but her reaction is so well done, I think. And I found out part of the reason why was because even though she knew what was going to happen, she didn't know when he was going to jump through the clothes or exactly what spot he was coming through. So she's just kind of looking and knows that, okay, somewhere along here at some point he's going to jump. And then he did it and she wasn't ready for it and really scared the shit out of her, but they kept it because they thought it looked so good. And I agree. It looks so great. And one of the things I'll mention here, not to get ahead of ourselves or, spoil anything else, but periodically through this movie, we still get shots of her with this bag on her head in this rocking chair. And every single time it just, I mean, again, I've seen this movie more times than I can count, but every shot just gives you that unsettling feeling. Every time you see that character with the bag on the head, it's just so uh, disturbing. And I think that way about this first kill. It's not like it's incredibly bloody, it's not incredibly gory, but it's just so disturbing. And so
Yeah.
I love the opening to this movie.
Yeah, it's disturbing. I like how you highlighted the fact that it was a surprise because the audience also feels that surprise. You
Right,
know it's coming because you know the conventions of horror movies and sound
right.
design and how they work. But it's still a surprise because it's delayed just long enough and it doesn't come from exactly the place where you expect it to. So all of those things. So it works out really well. The kill, yeah, like you said, the kill is very effective, and I think all the kills in this movie are effective um, for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah.
But yeah, what an opening! Love it.
No, I agree. And I think one more thing on that is I think that's another I think part of the reason that I love some of these older movies so much, and again, I know that's where the tropes started, so I get it. But I think nowadays, one of the tropes that's been overdone, in my opinion, is the like the thing where you see somebody and they've got the refrigerator door open and you think there's somebody on the other side and then they shut it and the person's not there. And then they do something else and you're like, oh, here comes the killer. And then they move and the killer's not there. That's just been
Yeah,
done so much. It's a
yeah,
little bit overdone. Not saying that it causes me to dislike movies, but that particular trope has been overdone. So to go back and see, and again, I'm sure this is part of the place they got some of that, but to go back and see it done the first time where you're not trying to get confused or whatever, somebody's coming through, like you said, it's coming, but it's still just so good. It still startles you, a little bit. So yeah,
yeah.
I love the opening to the film. I think again, very well shot and just immediately begins to give you that unsettling feeling.
Right, and it also you were talking about the mysteriousness of Billy as a character and how I think that's a brilliant choice by Bob Clark to make it so that he remains a strong enigma because whenever you see things like that kill, you're like, okay, why is he doing this? You don't ever get an explanation. Okay, why is he
Right.
Spider-Manning up the wall? Well, you never get an
Right.
explanation. You know, why is the camera
Yeah.
shoved down inside of his throat? You never get an explanation. So
Right.
I think that just highlights his creepiness. So every time he does something else, he makes him even creepier. Like you think, oh, he's okay. Oh, he's sneaky. He's climbing up the wall. He wants to be
Right.
very quiet. No, he doesn't. He wants to call and scream abuses at people on the phone. That's
Yeah.
disturbing.
No, I completely agree.
No, he doesn't. He wants to kill people. Actually, it's like cool. And then so
Right.
you don't know why he's doing that. And then you also because they keep going back to her, you don't know why is he keeping this one person and just leaving her alone there. Well, that
Right.
makes it even creepier too. So
Yeah, I agree.
um, all of these little things are building up this enigma of Billy, which you don't have that enigma in the second one, but I think that's why the second one works as a
Sure.
remake, reboot. I
Yeah,
can't
because you
remember.
don't want an exact shot for shot thing. You want it to be a little bit different. So yeah, I agree with what you're saying there. And one of the
Yep.
things too with what you were mentioning there that crossed my mind, um, because again, it's just something that I've come to appreciate so much more than what I used to. I mean, I'm a slasher fan. Everyone knows that I'm a huge slasher fan, and so I'm all for some great kills. That we see from like the Jason Voorhees kills, the Michael Myers, the Leatherface, even Art the Clown today. I'm all for that. I don't mind the gore. I like these kills, but sometimes less is better. You don't always need all the blood for the kill to still be effective. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes what you don't know is scarier than what you do know.
Yep.
Like a perfect example of that to me, and not to get off on a complete other franchise, but the first Halloween movie, what makes that stand out to me above everything else that they did since then is you had no clue what Michael Myers' motive was. Once we started
Right.
creating stories and, he's got a sister and there's this and there's a cult and there's all this kind of, it takes away from the fear a little bit. Not that I don't like those
Yep.
movies. I still enjoy the Halloween franchise, but trying to give explanation is not always necessary because what you don't know can be scarier. And that's one of the
Yeah.
things that I think this movie does a great job with.
Yeah, and even down to we're talking about TCM later. they don't show any gore in the first movie, and
Right.
yet everyone had kind of a Mandela effect where they were like, "This is one of the goriest, most disturbing movies ever made." Which you could make an argument for disturbing, but definitely not gory.
Right.
So that's part of the magic of movies, I think.
Yeah, I completely agree. Completely agree. Moving forward, then we then get some of the comedy brought into the horror aspect here, where we get the comedic relief as Claire's father has showed up and he's looking for her because they were supposed to meet where he could pick her up, and now he's gone to this sorority house and he meets Miss Mac, and so we get the introduction to her. Um, we talked about this a little bit already, but I do like the Miss Mac character. I'm with you there. She's funny. I like the interaction between her and Mr. Harrison, where she's, I was laughing at. I watched this movie again this morning. I watched it twice this week, and I've seen it so many times. I probably didn't need to watch it to do the review. I just wanted to. Um, and so, yeah, even this morning, I still find myself, as many times as I've seen this movie, the scene where he's talking to her and there's the poster, and she's trying to cover the one spot of the poster with her hand so he can't see the
Yeah.
picture there. I still laugh every time I see that scene. Um, but yeah, I do like the comedic relief that she brings. I like the interaction between them. Also, here I'll mention a couple of other things and then get your take on all of this. We also find out that Jess is pregnant and she is contemplating an abortion, and she tells Peter, her boyfriend, that she's going to have this abortion, and he becomes furious about it. And also here, and then like I said, I want your opinion kind of on all of this together. So take your time when responding. But we get another phone call, and I feel like this phone call is even worse than that initial one that we got. I feel like each phone call gets a little bit more disturbing as we go on
Mhm.
through this film, and this one's incredibly rough. We also get, um, a mention of the Agnes character. We get a mention of a baby. All of that kind of stuff in this phone call. So your take on the interaction between Mr. Harrison and Miss Mac, uh, the addition to the storyline of Jess being pregnant, and the second call.
Well, actually, I want to go back real fast to talk about
Sure.
something you were mentioning before with Miss Mac.
Yeah.
And that was whenever she's covering up the spot on the poster. And it just highlights to me that one of the things that makes this movie endlessly rewatchable, which is that Bob Clark movies are so dense of detail. So you can watch them like a
Yes.
billion times. And I mean, we've all watched, I shouldn't say we've all, because some people hate Christmas Story. But I've been watching A Christmas Story since I was a little kid. And every time I watch it, I still find new things in there in terms of details.
Right.
And a lot of them are like details that make the narrative funnier. And I think it's true in Black Christmas too. Because
Sure.
I know like the poster thing that you're talking about, I remember that detail that didn't even occur to me till a few times after I watched it the first time. So I
Right.
love that's another thing I love about movies in general and horror is going back to revisit and finding these sorts of things.
Yeah,
But I
I
love
agree.
that moment. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine. Yeah, yeah. So then where we find out Jess is pregnant, and she has the interaction there with Peter, and she wants to have the abortion. I felt like that's still something that would probably be somewhat touchy today. But again, I just put myself in the 1974, how much that being brought up in a movie. And this original, try to make this the only comparison I make between the original and the 2019. The 2019 film beats you over the head so much with its, can't think of the word, with its themes and its things. It drives you insane. This movie does it much, much better.
Yeah,
Because they are incredibly important issues. They are issues that do need attention and do need things done. But you, it's just so much better here, I think, than the way 2019 tried to do it for an hour and a half. This movie does it in, 15, 20 minutes right here.
yeah.
So I think that's a great scene. I like that interaction. And it also begins to give you, and I'm sorry, I keep talking. I want your take, but it also begins to give you, I feel like throughout this movie, there are times where they try to make you believe that Peter could be the killer, and you begin to see how angry he gets with Jess about this abortion idea, and you begin to see that he's not the most stable person himself, really,
Yep.
and their interaction. So your take on that, and then again, I wanted you to talk about that second phone call, if there was anything, you know, your thoughts on that. So
Yeah. So wait, hold on. Let me write this so I don't forget about it.
sure,
I liked what you said about the. You made a good point about movies moralizing. I think might be a good word to describe that, because you have. I mean, when artists are telling a story, a lot of times they're compelled because they want to communicate some sort of message.
sure,
So it's like I feel like every story ultimately has some kind of message. It's up to the audience to interpret that through their understanding of the story. So I think whenever it becomes unpleasant to consume is whenever it's moralizing about communicating a message and saying like you have to you have to follow this message or you are a bad person. I think
right,
that's whenever it starts to feel distasteful because it's reducing art to having a political function as opposed to letting art speak for itself and letting the audience stand it on its own. So I think
yeah,
that's probably why, because 1974 is a much more artfully made movie than 2019. I think that's pretty
sure.
objective.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, yeah, I like the way you put that's very true as well. Yeah,
Does that make sense?
yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Um,
Okay.
yeah,
Oh,
I
and
agree with you.
the what was the second phone call? Can you remind me the contents as much as you can? I can't remember that one.
Well, I just feel like, you know, that first phone call, if I remember correctly, and again, I know I just watched this today, but these phone calls are so the phone calls in this film are so unsettling. Again, I think like I've used that
Yeah.
word a couple of
Oh
times
yeah.
already, but I just don't know how else to put it. Um, I feel like, you know, in that first phone call when he calls, Jess mentions that it's the moaner, you know, that's what they call him, and that
Yep.
he's, you know, he's called again. I believe the first phone call, you don't always understand what he's saying. There is a lot
Yeah.
of heavy breathing, there is a lot of noises, there's some things here and there. The first phone call is mostly just obscene, in the sense of he's wanting to do oral sex for them, he's wanting them to do oral sex for him. It's a lot of that. The second phone call, I don't think we hear the name Billy in the first phone call either. The first phone call is all sexual. The second phone call, we hear the names Billy, we hear the names Agnes, and we also hear conversation about what did you do with the baby, you know, that kind of thing. So
Hmm.
we're starting to get a little more depth in the second phone call than just the first one. It's not just an obscene phone caller anymore, some, you know, sexual pervert. It's somebody that's got some real issues, and that's what seems to come out to me in this second phone call.
Yeah, that's great. And I think that's another really good way to build dread in this movie. It does tell you a little bit of something about Billy, but everything we learn about him is worse and worse. So you just get you feel this deep dread of like, am I actually going to encounter this person who's hiding in the walls? I mean, I'm in there with him, but I never see him. So you have so
Right,
much dread because you know what he's thinking, you know what he's doing, you know what he's feeling, you know all these things, but you don't know what he looks like. And guess
right.
what? Spoiler alert, you never will. You never will.
Exactly. Yeah, no, it's very true. Very true. Yeah, so I felt like the first phone call is disturbing and it's creepy and it makes you uncomfortable because of the sexual things that he's saying. The second phone call is disturbing for different reasons because again, we've got away from the sexual stuff and now we're just hearing this deranged individual on the phone who's rambling about so many different things. But also somewhat, and I don't think Jess picks up on it yet. She will later, but a baby is mentioned in this second phone call where she's had the conversation with her boyfriend about she's pregnant and wants to have an abortion. And in this second phone call, he keeps saying, "What did you do with the baby?" He mentions that a couple of times. I don't think Jess puts this together until a little bit later on. But yeah, just like you said, it's progressing as we go forth, and it just gets a little more disturbing.
Yeah, and another thing, like you said before about the 70s, is that the 1970s horror was not afraid to go there, and there's a lot of million different reasons why that's the case, as opposed to now. That's a whole other episode.
Sure.
But I
Yeah.
think in the 70s, you'll find them really facing some of the taboo discussions in society that we have more on a regular basis now. But back then, it was more of a thing like you don't talk about this at the dinner table type thing, which was
Right.
code for we don't talk about this at all
Yeah.
in our life,
Yeah.
So it's
Right.
like I think it's like that with horror. It allows you to face these sorts of taboo topics that are deeply important to talk about because they're so traumatic and so uh, real for people. So
Sure.
horror gives you an outlet to do that, and Billy is going to call you whether you like it or not. If you're at your dinner table, you're going to answer the phone. He's going to scream it at
Right.
you and force you to face it. So I think this
Yeah.
movie is really I don't know. I'm not as well versed about the topic of abortion to know about how it handles that topic in this movie, so I can't really
Mhm.
speak to that. But I do think that it's a really it tells you something about the 70s that movies like this were talking about abortion, and other movies were not
Right.
that were
Right.
winning Academy Awards.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I feel like, and this is going to sound really, really basic. So if it makes me sound stupid, then that's fine. But I'm just what I
No,
get from this movie at its core, what I get from this movie at its core in the topic of abortion is just simply that the woman has the right to decide what happens within her body because women still face issues to this day in 2025. It was so much worse in 1974, and that's the
yeah,
thing is her boyfriend is trying to tell her he says several times you're not going to have this abortion, and her response is you don't get to tell me what I'm going to do. And I really think
yeah,
that's the biggest thing here with abortion. It's not so much um, whether it's even morally right or wrong. It's
right.
more about Jess and this being her body and her decision, and Peter trying to take that decision away from her as a man. And so that's what
Right.
I get from abortion out of this film.
Yeah, it's not telling you like we were talking about, it's not telling you how to think about that issue. It's just presenting a very common because that is a super common situation that you're describing.
Right. Yeah.
And it's just saying this is the situation. So movies are I grew up with some people in my family who looked at movies and they wanted it to be like reflect the ideal person in life, kind of like an Ayn Rand thing,
Right.
And it's like, why do you want to watch movies about this is how people should be perfect, this is how people should be.
Right.
That's just
Yeah.
anyway. I don't want to get off
Yeah.
on that segue, but
That's all
there you
right.
go. There you go.
From there, finally, the decision is made to report Claire's disappearance to the police. Initially, they don't seem to take her very seriously. A search party is formed, and then we do get as well. We get Mrs. Mack's kill, um, and another thing that I'll bring up after we talk about Mrs. Mack. So the report to the police and the police not taking that very seriously. I don't think I'll say this because I feel like sometimes we've gotten so used today to things like Terrifier and stuff like that, where there's just complete. And I like Terrifier, so I'm not saying that, but there's complete chaos going on all the time in Terrifier. That some of these older movies, um, they're telling a story, and sometimes people overlook that because they're wanting so much more action today. I think than, but the storytelling is important, or at least it is to somebody like me. And so, while if there's any part of this film that I could see someone thinking drags, it would be this part of the movie. I don't think so because again, I appreciate the storytelling, but I can see where someone would think so here because again, they're trying to report this to the police. They don't seem to be taking it that serious initially, and you just kind of get some things happening there, and you do find out that there's another girl that's missing as well, and so this search party has been put together. Um, Again, I don't really think there's anything to pinpoint there, but I think it's just more telling the story. Nothing really jumps out to me about any of that, but it's fine for the story, in my opinion. Your thoughts there, and then talk to me about Miss Maxkill and what your thoughts were on that.
Is that John Saxon in the police?
So yes, now initially not so much. I think you may see him around, but initially they're just reporting this to the one guy there at the counter. John
Yeah.
Saxon's involvement doesn't really get until a little bit later. So it's initially
Okay.
them just telling this one guy, and he's kind of like, she's probably just gone somewhere, that kind of thing. I
Oh
mean,
yeah, yeah. I remember
yeah,
that.
that
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So again, I don't think there's really
Yeah.
anything here that jumps out. It's just telling a story.
To be honest, so this is some insight into my personal viewing habits for anyone out there who gives a shit. But when a cop appears on screen, and this is just like, I don't really have a rational explanation for this, and this has been my entire life for some reason. I just tune out. Like, I have to focus harder because for some reason I always just found cops just like off-putting, or just like, I don't care what they're, it's boring or something. So
Okay.
I don't really, I have to get to the bottom of that, but um
Sure.
that's probably why I don't remember it at all. I don't remember
Okay.
the cop stuff really at all in this movie.
Yeah, that's
One of the
okay.
things
There's a
I
scene
yeah,
coming up that's better.
but I do remember the kill, and I just felt really bad for her because I liked her so much, and
Yeah.
also I related to her. When I first watched this movie, this was like at the height of my binge drinking stuff. So at the time, I connected to her because I was like, "Oh, she seems fun." So actually, there is a character
Right.
I would have hung out with at some point on this show.
Okay.
So I would have hung out with her. We would have got trashed together, and we probably would have like gone walking around somewhere in the city, and maybe gotten into some trouble. See, this is the
Yeah.
thing. Whenever you are drunk, you trust people way too much, and so
Yes. This is
this
accurate.
is a cautionary tale
Yeah.
about that. But I like her a lot. So her death is funny, and it has a
Right.
nice Bob Clark seal of approval, because I think Bob Clark, even better than a lot of horror directors, does dark and funny, because he goes really dark with it when he
Right.
goes dark with
Yeah,
it.
I agree. I
So
agree. Yeah, I like her kill as well. And again, I think it's one of those similar to what we've already talked about a little bit. You see just enough. It looks very brutal, but it's not like he tried to overdo it with a lot of, gore and blood spatter and that kind of thing. It just it looks rough. And yeah, because you've kind of become to like this character, because she is funny. She somewhat seems like this sweet old lady, but at the same time, she's funny, and she does, as you mentioned, have this drinking problem. But you've come to like this character in the little bit she's been in the film. So this death hits you a little bit harder than the Claire character that gets killed in the beginning, because you've barely even gotten into the movie when Claire gets killed. So this one is the first one that kind of hits you a little bit as far as, oh wait, I like this character, that kind of thing. So
yep,
I think it's
exactly.
I think it's good because one great thing about this movie has how everything just keeps processing and growing. Not just the phone calls, but even the deaths. The first death so quick, okay. The second death, that one hit a little bit. I liked Miss Mac, that kind of thing. So
Yep.
I think that progresses well. The thing that I wanted to mention after her death that and I don't know if you remember it or not, so I'll just ask you. But there is then a scene where Billy is up in the attic, and we get another shot of Claire's body. And towards the end of the scene, we also now get a shot of Miss Mac's body. But
Mhm.
he's just going crazy. He's just tearing up stuff in the attic. He's saying a lot of things that you really don't even understand, just a lot of yelling and screaming and noises. But again, I think it's just more showing his mental state. But even that scene is just, to me, watching that again this morning, I'm like, this guy is messed up, and it's just so
Yeah.
uncomfortable. Even watching this scene, do
Yeah.
you remember the scene I'm talking about?
Yeah, and then also I like it because it puts into relief how tortured these people are who do this. Because I do a lot of you reference true crime. I do a lot of that where I watch the interrogations, or I watch the interviews and try to get to the bottom of the psychological aspect here. And so it highlights the fact that a lot of these people are so tortured, and these acts that they're committing just like are constantly in their heads,
Right.
that they only get relief from it in the moment that it happens. They can't sustain it for much
Yeah.
longer, and that's where serial killers come from in a way. And so
Right.
he's like, it's like in that moment you get the relief, but it immediately starts again after that.
Yeah.
So this is him like lashing out in a way that he can't because he doesn't have the next victim lined up for him
Right.
yet.
Yeah.
So
I 100%
that's my
agree. Good way to put it.
interpretation.
Yeah. Good way to put it. I agree with that. Um, from there, so now this other girl, younger, and
Oh,
I don't remember for some reason. I think they said she was 14.
oh
Um,
wait, sorry, Sean.
oh yeah, go
Can
ahead.
we
No, you're good.
can we pause just for a second? And can you? I don't know if you can cut this part out later because I have a meeting that I forgot to push back whenever we rescheduled. Like, can I message him real quick?
Yeah, you go ahead. Yeah, don't worry about it. And just to let you do your messaging thing. I don't typically
Yeah,
do a lot of editing because I like for people to see that I fuck up constantly. And so I
yeah.
just let people watch me mess up. So yeah, you go ahead and do your thing and I'll just talk for a minute.
Okay,
How's that?
okay, that's fine. Yeah,
All right. So yeah, everything that Isaiah has been saying, I completely agree with. And I think that's a great point that he just made as far as Billy here in this attic is that it, these killers are constantly looking for something, some kind of relief for what they're feeling. And so he briefly gets that when he kills Claire. He briefly gets that again when he kills Miss Mac. But now initially that need is back and it seems to be getting worse and growing. And so just more and more he's wanting to kill someone, to do damage. And when he doesn't immediately have something there, he just freaks out and he starts basically tearing up this attic. And it's just such a disturbing scene. It's one of the scenes like we were talking about in the beginning where the sound plays a huge part in it as you're listening to him with all of his yelling and moaning and that kind of thing while he's throwing stuff around. I believe he says a few words, but it's not very clear what he's actually even saying. And so again, it's just very uncomfortable in watching this scene. It makes Billy, in my opinion, even scarier watching this kind of a scene. Um,
yeah.
yeah, you good?
Oh, I'm good. Yeah.
Okay, just
Thank
making
you.
sure. Yeah, absolutely. So from here, and I was going to ask you a question about this. They now find the body of this other girl that was missing, or kid. I believe they said she was like 14. That's the one thing I can never remember is how old this other victim was where this body is found. It's never talked about in this film. Do you feel like that? Is that a completely separate killing? Did someone else kill this victim, or do you think Billy also killed that person when he was not in the house?
I mean, I think Billy would kill everyone. He strikes me. I don't know much about him because he's
Right.
so much of an enigma, as you said. But he strikes
Yeah.
me based on what we know, and based on the information we have, that he's out of control entirely.
Okay.
So I think if it's in this movie, um, and the Billy left the house, then I think it's probably Billy.
Probably Billy. Okay. Yeah, I just wondered what you thought there because I've heard different people say different things, and I tend to agree with you. I've heard some people say that it's something else that was just thrown in. Someone else did something, but I agree with you. I think it's something Billy did because we know there are moments that he's crawling in and out of these windows. So I feel like it's probably um, something else that he did is just an off camera thing. We
Yep.
now get another obscene call, and there's another very creepy moment here that I want to point out because this time, as Jess is getting this call, um, I don't remember a lot of details about this phone call, to be honest with you. But immediately afterwards, she decides to call the police. And while she's calling the police, we see a shot where you just see legs, but someone is very slowly coming downstairs behind her. And now that we know Billy's been in the attic and that's where he's accessing the house from, it really gives you that impression. And again, it's just another thing, in my opinion, that is shot so well because um, now, I mean, you're seeing this so many times. I know it turns out to not be Billy, but I think the first probably 2, 3 times I watched this movie, I was like, oh, wait. I don't remember this. Who's that? Like, who's coming down the stairs after her? But it's just shot so good. I really like that scene. And then eventually she turns around and it determines that it's Peter, her boyfriend that's there. And he and her have a little bit of a conversation again. But do you remember the scene I'm talking about? Did you get that same feeling from it?
Yeah, for sure. And it actually, as you're discussing it just now, it reminded me of what you were talking about with we need people to go back and watch movies from the 70s because visual storytelling like this gets lost because a lot of movies now are catered to people who are distracted by their phones. And
Right.
so I really think that having these sorts of discussions and showing them like the types of why that type of storytelling matters. It's because whenever all of these pieces add up together, it gives you this emotional feeling that you take with you at the end. You know, so if
Yeah.
you are there and you see that, and it's not actually telling you, "Hey, I wonder if there's a person behind me," because if you're on your phone, you can't see it. But if they're
Right.
saying it to you while you're on your phone, then you'll know it, but you'll never know it in here because it won't have any sort of impact. So
Yeah.
I think that that is the value of something like that, and it's like you see it in that moment, you feel it as well, the same time that your brain sees it, and you know he's coming to get you, but you also don't
Yeah.
know who he is, so it makes it
Right.
even more exciting. So
Yeah,
that's
because I
just
think
another
at this
rant.
point there's still no, I agree with you. And I think at this point, if you hadn't seen this film before, you're still wondering if it's possible that Peter is Billy, is Peter the
Yep.
killer. So
Yep.
especially because you don't even realize he's in the house and now he's coming down the stairs. So it
Yep.
kind of makes you wonder how the hell did he get up there? So it's the
Yeah.
visual storytelling, like you said, that's so important and just so great and something that I wish we got more of. You know, you were saying that when you were saying that today's world is so distracted by their phone. I'm telling you, man, I'm finding myself I'm becoming that guy. I hate the fact that I'm 53, but I'm starting to find myself becoming that old man because I even now I go to the theater. When I go to the theater, I have my phone for a moment before everything starts because I just one of those people that I always like to make a post real quick, like, "Hey, I'm finally checking this out," you know,
Yep.
and
Yep.
then I turn the volume off, and I lay it face down so I can't see if something happens, and I don't
Yeah.
mess with my phone anymore till the movie's over. But I find myself when I'm in the theater and I'm watching a movie, eh, if I see somebody out of the corner of my eye on their phone while the movie's going on, I'm just like, what the hell is wrong with these people? Will you put your phone down? You're going to miss something. Like something important is going to happen and you're going to miss it because I do. I
Right.
think that visual storytelling, it's unfortunately, it's kind of become a lost art most of the time, but I think it's so important. And this movie does it so well.
Yeah, it's a great example of it, and it shows you also like the most impactful horror uses good storytelling. This is a movie that we still talk about all every year, all and even all year, 50 something years later in this
Right.
horror community. And it's one of our top movies. Like if you ask people, it's not just one of the top Christmas horror movies; it's one of the top
Right.
horror movies for us. So I think that it shows it's worth putting that type of effort into it, to give you this sort of emotional experience that will transcend the test of time.
Yes,
Not
I
that
agree
you have to
completely.
do that. You can make a stupid movie. That's fine too.
Yeah, no, I agree. Um, from there, we get a little bit more police interaction. This is where John Saxon's character starts to become a little bit bigger deal because Lieutenant Fuller, who is the police officer that was not initially taking them seriously, they go in, they speak with him again, and he's still somewhat clueless, it seems, and not taking it seriously until John Saxon shows up, and he's like there was a girl missing from this sorority house. Now these girls at the sorority house are getting prank phone calls. Don't you think we should take this seriously, kind of thing? Um, Again, it's more of that police interaction, somewhat similar to what you were talking about earlier. So, but this is also a little bit more comedic part that's brought into the film as John Saxon's character. And there's another police officer that I don't know that he ever says a word. All he does is laugh the entire time he's on the screen. But they're laughing at this Lieutenant Fuller guy because um, Barb has given him a phone number to call, but she's saying that the phone number starts with the word fellatio, and this officer doesn't know
Yeah.
what that means, and so they're giving him a hard time about that. And the scene does give you a little bit, again, if you needed that comedic relief. I do think this scene is funny, but then this is also again where the police now are starting to take this more seriously and are going to start putting a trace on the call. Um, You said earlier you kind of zone out on the police stuff. Do you remember this one?
um, I remember John Saxon's face. I don't remember much of
Okay.
what the police do in this movie, except
Okay.
in broad strokes, I would say.
Got it.
Um, there are police characters that I like in some movies, like Killer Clowns from Outer Space. There's some very memorable
Right.
police characters in horror movies. I think especially in horror movies because they're not always the heroes. But
Yeah.
uh, I can't remember much else from this scene.
Okay. um, from there, we get another one that I want to briefly mention. We get a shot of Peter at some point, and I can't remember exactly where it takes place, but he's at a recital, and it may have even been before this. Now that I think about it, but I think they're still trying to establish that he could be the killer because watching him where he's playing his piano and he's got these people listening to him, he seems so unsettling himself. I don't know if you remember this scene, but just his facial expressions and the way he seems so intense while he's playing this piano and uncomfortable, and it's just I think they're really trying, again, it's more visual storytelling, but I think they're trying to sell us on the idea that Peter could be the killer. Again,
Mm-hmm.
anybody that's seen the movie knows that's not the case. But again, I think if you go back to maybe watching this the first time, you probably were believing that he was the killer at this point because
Yeah.
his character also seems very, maybe not as disturbed as Billy, but his character seems to have some issues.
Yeah, I mean, even more than any of the plot things that go on in the movie, it's the visual storytelling that makes you think it's got to be him. And part of it's
Right.
because they get so close up and you see like every twitch and every bead of
Yeah.
sweat in this movie and every pause
Right.
and every like stuff like this. And yeah, whenever he's slamming on the piano or something, you
Right.
think that could be the same person that's slamming stuff around in the attic.
Yeah. In the
So
attic. Yeah.
yeah, I think it's brilliant. That's brilliant.
From there, we get what is actually my favorite kill in the movie. I think this one is a little bit more graphic. It's Barb's kill. We now have Barb's kill, and I just you get a little bit more blood and all here and some of the splatter and things as you see it kind of splattering around. But again, I just think it's so well shot. Not even necessarily because we get more blood in this scene than we do in some of the other ones, but just the interaction, the sound. I mean, you hear this weapon like going into her skin. The sound is just so gross. Basically, I don't know how else to put it. But and
Yep.
you're also, then you're getting a little more of the gore factor with her putting up her hands and he's stabbing her, and you are trying to see some blood splatter, but you're also seeing her facial expressions. You're listening to her as she's being killed.
Yep.
Again, like we've talked about, how this movie continues to progress and just keep upping the ante. I think this kill does that again. And I, even though I love Margot character and I like the character of Margot Kidder, and I like the character of Barb, this is my favorite kill. I love this kill.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is probably the kill that gets talked about the most when people refer to Black Christmas because it's very visceral. And I think you highlighted a good thing about the sound design in this movie, which is it makes you feel it because it's so good.
Right.
But they don't have to do much in terms of gore or blood even to sell it to you. They just give you a good
Right.
performance. The way they shoot it is really nice, and the way that they use the sound design, of course. So yeah, this is a great kill for those
Yeah, it's just
people who
it's a
like that
great
stuff.
combination. Like you said, it's the way it's shot, it's the sound design. And yes, you get some blood, but you still don't get anywhere near the kind of blood that we see in movies today. Or even in the
Sure.
Friday the 13th movies, which I love, those kind of movies as well. You still don't get anywhere. It's just that it's a great combination of a little bit of blood, great sound design, shot fantastically. It's just such a good kill. And in my opinion, I'm sure a lot of people are going to think I'm crazy and name a lot of other things, but this isn't just the best kill in this movie. This is one of the best kills in all of slasher films, in my opinion, is this kill.
Okay. Wow. I'm gonna have to see a list of. Have you been on Our Life in Horror? I feel like you've been on there to talk about the best slasher kills.
I've been on their channel a lot. I don't think we've ever actually discussed that, to be honest with you. But
Okay.
that would probably be a really fun episode to do. But yeah, I just,
Well.
as much as you look back at um, Bo from Critic After Dark and I recently discussed
Uh-huh.
Psycho, and that shower scene is such a classic scene, and it is amazing. But again, my opinion, this kill is up there with that shower scene kill. I just think this kill is so fantastic. It's just one of the best ever, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You may get
Um,
more fun kills in other franchises. You may get some kills that are more fun. I don't think you get kills that many that are as effective.
right. And that's the thing for me is the effectiveness, and that's why again this movie stays in my top 5 as the years go on because of that effectiveness, which is I can feel it when I think about it. And
Right.
that's how I define effective for me.
Sure.
And so it's like you can't completely put your finger on it, but that's why we talk about horror movies and never shut up about it because we don't know the
Right.
answer and we never will, and
Right.
so we're dead.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. Um, from there, the next thing we come across is there is a another phone call, another obscene phone call, and this time I think is where Jess begins to now she starts to question Peter because in this phone call, Billy recites some of the exact same things that her and Peter have discussed.
Yeah.
There's when they're discussing the abortion and something gets said about it. I can't remember the exact line, but something about similar to having a wart removed. Billy makes that
Mhm.
statement on this phone call. And so now Jess realizes that she's beginning to suspect Peter herself, which is creeping her out even more. So, again, another great phone call where things are progressing. We're really starting to establish Peter as a possible suspect in the film. And this phone call, I think, is. I don't believe it's as long as some of the others. It's not as cluttered as some of the other phone calls, but again, it serves the purpose of making it look like it's Peter, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. Sorry, I thought I had myself muted there. I'm so used
No, you're
to
good.
when I do my recordings, I'm always muted, so I always look to see
Yeah,
am I muted. Um,
that's okay.
I like
Uh,
the doubt that it's filling you with here because we have the mystery of the unknown with Billy as you go through this, and so then you have the added layer of the doubt with Peter, and they do such a good job of milking that mystery all to the very end of this movie. Um,
yeah,
and I think that's part of also what makes it so effective because it's a slasher, but it's also this great mystery that they
yeah,
sustain in intellectually, but also in your feelings because you're so conflicted the whole time you don't know what's real.
right, right. Um, Unfortunately, Jess is not able to keep him on the phone long enough, and so the trace fails. And then we have a moment where, and I believe this kill takes place off screen. Phil goes to look for Barb. And I think she comes across Barb's body, but then we cut away. So I don't, if I'm remembering correctly, unless I've just gone brain dead, we don't actually see her character get killed. We just see her body later. Um,
I
Maybe
can't
I'm
remember.
forgetting, but I really don't. Again, I just watched it this morning, but I really don't remember seeing her get killed because I remember asking myself that afterwards. I was like, okay, did I just miss something, or am I on so much medication that I don't know what I
I
just
see.
saw? Like I was trying to figure out, I was trying to figure out what just happened. But
Send
yeah,
some of those to
so
me, Sean. Sorry, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Um,
uh,
yeah,
and
I
then
don't
we
remember
reach
that
our
either.
big moment. We reach our big moment in the film where another phone call comes through, and this time they're able to trace the call and discover that the killer is inside the house. And so John Saxon and another officer take off towards the house. Um, he asks this other lieutenant to make a phone call to Jess and try to convince her to leave without um, really telling her exactly what's going on, just get her to leave the house. We also get another really good shot because all this time there's supposed to have been a police officer outside their home. There's a moment where before Phil goes to look for Barb, where Jess and Phil look out the window and they still see the car, but then we get a shot of this police officer with his throat slit in the car. So we know Billy has come out of the house long enough to kill the police officer. Um, the lieutenant does not do a good job with Jess as far as getting her to not freak out because he basically starts screaming to her that there's a killer in the house. This lieutenant guy's a joke. But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, a great scene here, I think, where they reveal that the killer is inside the house.
Yep.
Another
Yep.
scene that almost, even though you've seen this movie a million times, it almost gives you chills every single
Yeah.
time when you watch this, just the way it's done. So fantastic scene here, in my opinion, as well. you agree with that one. It still
Absolutely.
affects you.
And
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. There's a reason when you go back to the 70s, a lot of these conventions started in the 70s too. A lot of the ones that we milk to this day.
Yeah.
But you go back and watch the original one, whether it's this one in Black Christmas, whether it's any shark movie with Jaws,
Right.
whether it's Crab Walking, although that wasn't
Yeah.
part of the original cut of The Exorcist.
Right.
But anything with pea soup or just turning of the heads or anything like that,
Yeah.
and you go back and you watch it and you realize that it's again, it goes back to what we've been saying all day today, which is this visual storytelling. You're talking about a real person who's been fully developed. You're talking about all these plot and character dynamics that are going on, and you're
Yeah.
talking about all these feelings that you've got from watching the movie and interpreting all the signals that they're sending you through this. So
Right.
I think that's why this is such a powerful moment here.
Yeah, I completely agree. At this point, Barb freaks out. She starts to leave, and then she decides that she's going to try to go find Barb and Phil. Instead, she ends up coming across their bodies. And then again, we get another classic film in this scene, really about the only decent look you get at Billy for a brief moment where she hears him talking and she looks and she just sees his eye, peeking through the crack of the door. And it's such a creepy scene. It's so done so well. And again, it just kind of goes back to what we've been talking about sometimes less is more. You don't need to see this big hulking individual with a butcher knife and a mask and all these other things. Again, I love all that stuff, not saying anything bad about that, but here you just get a shot of someone peeking through a door, and it's so effective.
Yep. And it's so effective because of all the movie that's been built up around it. But the shot in isolation is so good and it's so terrifying. It's so unexpected as well in that moment because it's the
Right.
most personal that we've got to Billy because you're looking
Yeah.
straight into his soul for the first time.
Right.
And it's like we've been trying to avoid seeing him because it's like you want to know, but you don't want to know because
Yeah.
you know whatever it
Yeah.
is has to be the most terrifying thing. And once you see
Right.
it, you were confirmed that he has the rage virus for 28 days later. And it's like he's so scary to me. I think Billy,
Yeah, I completely agree.
because he's such an enigma and he's got that freaky eyeball, is one of the most terrifying characters in horror. That's my opinion.
Oh, I agree. And we'll talk about something here at the end. I'm going to ask you a question about something because I completely agree with that. But Jess ends up taking off to the basement. There's a little bit of a chase scene. Jess takes off to the basement where she's now hiding. And then, again, we hear Billy doing a lot of screaming and throwing things around. But then we kind of cut, and now we find Peter outside the basement. And he's trying to find Jess and wanting to continue to talk to her about this issue because he's still not okay with her having this abortion. And so he's trying to talk to her, but now his countenance has changed and he's back to being, super nice and supportive and all this kind of stuff and wanting in to get her or to talk to her, yet he is willing to break into a basement. So again, this guy has some issues himself. But and we get this brief interaction between Jess and Peter. And again, it's something that it's so, in my opinion, again, so well done because I feel like if this movie was made today, we would probably see Jess and Peter have a struggle and Jess stab him or something. I mean, we would get a lot going on that might be fine, but it's not necessary because for here you just get him looking at her and asking her what she's doing and her looking back at him with this terrified expression on her face for everything she's been through and suspecting that he might be the killer. And then we cut to the police, headed towards the house. So again, not to repeat myself and what we've talked about, but again, just such great storytelling. Great shots. I love the shot we get of her face when she's looking at him while he's talking to her and coming towards her. Olivia Hussey sells this performance so good because she looks terrified right here. So a great job. And again, another scene that I really enjoy. Your thoughts there? Anything different?
No, I think you said it very well. And kudos, like we should definitely shout out Olivia Hussey for this movie because it's one of the best horror performances, especially with the Final Girl trope. But she, and rest in peace too. Did she die last year or was it this year?
I believe so. Yeah, it's been recent. Yeah.
Well, yeah, she was underrated because I think she was in Psycho 3 or 4, one of those, and some other horror things.
Yeah, and she's in the original
But
It, which I had forgot about
yeah,
until
that's
I watched
right.
that recently. She's in the original It, so yeah,
Yeah, so we got to give her more horror cred, but
I agree.
she's amazing in this movie, and yeah,
Okay. And then from there, we kind of get the closing of this film where the police show up and they discover that Jess has killed Peter. You know, his body is, she's still in the basement. She's kind of out of it. His dead body is right there, almost leaning over on her. Um, the police end up taking her upstairs. They sedate her. So she's in bed. She's out of it on medication. I've been there recently. So we have that going
I
on.
didn't know this was a movie about your life.
I'm telling you, yeah, it's very similar to what I've been through in the last few weeks. Minus the creepy phone calls. I haven't been getting those.
Oh my
But,
god! When the kidney stone popped out, it said, "Hey, it's Billy."
yeah, that's what I'm going to name this kidney stone as Billy. But, yeah, they're all suspecting that Peter is the killer, and now in one of the dumbest decisions in the history of police in movies, the police decide to leave. Um, this is, and again, I'm not saying this as far as being something negative about the film. Um, it's fine, but this is just so incredibly stupid of these police because
Yeah.
we've still got Claire as this missing person that's never been found. Miss Mac is also missing. That doesn't really get talked about, but her character has been missing for quite some time now. And we've found the bodies of Barb. We found the body of Phil. We found Peter here dead, and Jess in this, almost catatonic state. And we don't investigate the whole house. We don't check out the attic and see what might be up there because Claire and
Right.
Miss Mac's bodies are still up there. And we're
Yeah.
just going to leave this girl now. So incredibly stupid performance here from these police officers as they
Yeah.
decide to leave. They do leave an officer outside, but even that blows my mind because we know what happened to the last officer they left outside.
Right.
but we're just going to leave another officer outside and hope that he doesn't get his throat slit, not worry about the two people that are missing, and not look through the rest of the house. We're just going to let this all go. Stupid police force in this movie, basically. But
Well,
as
Sean, the
we get
DA
all of
has
this,
other priorities. Okay, this
I
case is
guess
not
so.
not the
I
top of their
guess
list,
so.
right?
It just blows my mind the way this is done. But yeah, okay. And I think maybe, I mean, it sounds when I explain it, I think it does sound pretty asinine. But my father was a police officer. I've
Mhm.
heard all kinds of stories about the way they do things. That would have been there would have been so much more investigation going on. I know there would have been. So
Right.
for these
Yes.
guys to have done this, I'm just like, wow, what the hell? Because all this time I've thought John Saxon was a pretty good cop. He just worked with a lot of idiots, but he missed it here.
Right.
He should have done more. Because now, as everyone is gone, um, we see the attic hatch open, and we hear Billy's voice. And so we now, as the audience, know Peter was not the killer. Billy is still in the house. And then as the credits begin to roll, the phone rings again. So I love, again, the way this is done. It kind of gives you an open ending, like you don't exactly know what happened. I want your take there. One, how do you feel about the ending? But two, to me, Jess gets killed. I mean, that's more than likely what's happened. She's out. She's sedated. We know Billy's coming through the hatch. He's going to get her, and
Yep.
the only police officer even close is outside the house. So, in my opinion, Jess's character gets killed, even though we don't actually know that. But your thoughts on the ending?
Yeah. I think that's the case for sure. Maybe it's a bit of commentary about the bungling of justice when it comes to women and things that happen to them, because we've talked about this idea of policing women's bodies and making decisions for them, and then in the end we have the cops not listening
Right.
to her, and then that miscarriage to, oh god, that's not the right word to use here. That failure of justice. Jesus Christ. Sorry.
It's very fitting. I got it.
Sorry, God. That failure.
That was awesome.
That failure of justice.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying.
Yes,
Sorry,
absolutely.
I threw myself off on that one.
That was okay. That was pretty good. Um, so you enjoy the ending as well. You think it's a great ending to a great film.
Yeah, I think it's a great ending. Um, and you know, it's such a sadness to me that people who don't watch horror movies, they'll watch a horror movie and they'll be like, but it doesn't have a happy ending. And I'm like, yes, but if you watch it, if you understand why it doesn't have a happy ending, you will be happier as a person in life in general, as opposed to
Right.
fooling yourself and getting disappointed. But
Yeah.
I digress, Sean. That's why I was like, Sean, you got to learn the power of editing, because if you're gonna keep having me on here, you have to edit me out.
No, I think it's great for people to see that stuff actually. So, but I agree
Okay.
with you. I think it, and I think leaving it somewhat open, even though to me it's fairly easy to figure out what probably happened. I think leaving it at that, with Billy still inside the house, we know he's coming out of the attic. We know he's going after Jess now, and she's pretty
Yeah.
much defenseless. I think it's such a great ending to a great movie. The movie has been so dark and so, we've used the word unsettling and disturbing and creepy, that to try to
Yeah.
change that into some bright, glorious, happy ending would not fit. This is really
Right.
the only ending that will fit for this movie, in my opinion. So I think it's just a
Yep.
perfect way to wrap it up and keep that same feeling that you've had through the whole movie. And I love
Yep.
that it does it as the credits are rolling. It doesn't happen and then the movie ends and the credits starts rolling. We get the phone ringing and the shot from outside the house as the credits are rolling, which again I think is just more brilliance on Bob Clark's part to put it that way and to do it that way. Um,
Yeah.
question I have for you. So I agree. We don't give enough. I want to say Final Girl. We don't give enough Final Girl credit to this character of Jess, and Olivia Hussey's performance. Probably because this is a one off.
Right.
I mean, we've got remakes down the road, and there's a sequel, a fan made sequel called, I forgot the name of it now. I'm sure you know it. I believe it's on YouTube. It's something about Billy.
I
I've
remember
never
what you're
seen
talking
it.
about. I haven't seen
Okay.
it though, actually.
I
Yeah.
haven't seen it. I think I'm going to try to look it up and watch it this evening.
Okay.
Robbie over at That Horror Couple recommended it to me because I just recorded with them a few nights ago, and was telling them that you and I were going to be talking about this. And he was telling me I should go back and watch that. And he told me the name of it. I just completely forgot. But I'm curious to see how that goes. He said, as far as those kind
Yeah.
of fan made sequels, that one's actually pretty good. But
Okay.
would you have liked to have seen um, a sequel made? Would you like to have seen more from Billy? Maybe, obviously we feel like Jess's character gets killed, but maybe we get some closure there. Maybe we don't. Maybe Billy goes somewhere else. Would you have liked for there to have been more to this franchise? Or do you think the way this was done and this ending, is this better as just a one off?
No, I think as a story, it's exactly as it should be. I love the 2006 one, which we'll talk about later.
Yeah.
But the story itself, as it is, I think it's perfect. And yeah, I don't think it's not really appropriate to call her a final girl. But I was just using it for so you could get the idea of the type of person I was talking about. But
Sure.
no, no, I don't think so. I think it's like just one of those things that's perfect as it is. You make Billy less scary, as you said, if you try to flesh him out more, which they
Right.
did in 2006, but they did it in a way that's so rare that it actually worked out
Yeah.
like perfectly.
Yeah.
And it's just so hard to pull that off. But no, 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 no. I think you totally ruin his mystique, and you ruin the things
Yeah.
that make him so effective if you do that.
Right. And I asked you that because I just want to know what you thought, because in all honesty, I agree with you completely. I'm one of these people, we have some people, which is fine. I mean, everybody has their own taste, but they feel like we've had too many sequels to, the Friday the 13th franchise, the Halloweens, the Nightmare on Elm Street, all of this stuff. They feel like there's too many. I'm not that person. They can keep
Right,
making
right.
these if they want to, because I love Jason and Freddy and Michael and Leatherface. I mean, I'd make as many as you want. And so that side of me, I feel like Billy as a character doesn't get enough recognition for being such a terrifying villain.
Yep.
And maybe even some of these performances or the Jess character don't get enough recognition because this is only a one-off. And so that side of me is like, would it have been cool to get more Billy? Would it have been cool to get something else? But then I agree with you. When I really think about it, I'm like, no, because I think we would have ruined the first one. I don't
Yeah,
think you
man.
could have made a sequel that compared to this, and you
Nope.
would have ended up probably hurting the film. So this film
Yep.
is perfect as is and doesn't need anything else.
Yep. Totally agree. And what we need to do, Sean, and we're doing it here right now, is change the culture. That's what we need to do. Um, so that so that they will appreciate these sorts of things and appreciate artists and unique voices, and as opposed to, I mean, I also love franchises too, don't get me wrong. um,
Right.
but if we want to see more unique things, then we need to talk about them more so that they'll give them more money. So there you go.
Yes.
Jason,
No,
Jason's been dead for thousands of years. He doesn't need more money. Okay, you can make him on a
right.
small budget.
Yes, that's very true, and probably better on a small budget,
Exactly,
because the
exactly.
beginning of that franchise is so much better. But that's a whole nother story.
Oh, we have
Um,
an old, yeah, exactly, exactly.
but and that's why, and that's probably kind of a weak claim because I know there's so many streaming services out there, and uh, you know, I wish we got more movies like this, like Black Christmas. But that's why I love physical media because I
Yeah,
can always go back and pop this in and watch it again. And
yep,
all this time later, it still holds up so well and is better than 95% of what we get nowadays, in my opinion. Um,
yeah,
so yeah, that's why it's part of why I'm a collector because I don't want to watch Black Christmas and it not be streaming somewhere. So I've
yep,
got my
yep.
copy. So, we can just go
Yeah,
back and watch.
totally.
If
And
I, yeah,
they'll disappear movies too, and they've done it. They disappeared movies that they just released last year. So you should
right.
support physical media, support
I
artists, support
completely
independent
agree.
artists. And actually, I firmly believe, as a person who's I do a YouTube channel and a website devoted to independent horror, and I think they're doing far more innovative things than you see in the mainstream. I love mainstream
Yeah,
movies. Don't get me wrong, and they're very entertaining. If you want innovation, seek out independent horror.
yeah,
That's my
I
advice.
agree. I completely agree. Um, and occasionally, we get something mainstream that's really good. The movie Weapons, it was out recently. I actually thought that movie was fantastic. So there is some stuff that happens occasionally, but
Sure.
yeah, I agree with what you're saying. And okay, so on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest or the best, what would you rank Black Christmas from 1974?
Black Christmas gets a 10 from me.
Okay. All right. Very good. And I am 100% on board with you. That's a 10 out. This movie's a 10 out of 10. It's so
Yeah.
absolutely incredible. Um, I think I enjoy it more every time I watch it. It's kind of like
Yep.
what you were talking about. I sometimes feel like I pick up something each time that I didn't notice before. It's
Yep.
just such a fantastic movie, shot so well. Again, we talked about it all at the beginning. Sound design and score are incredible. The performances are fantastic. As I mentioned, the Barb kill, in my opinion, is one of the best kills in slasher movie
Hmm.
history. Um, just such an absolutely incredible movie. So yeah, I'm
Yeah.
glad we both found it as a 10 out of 10. That's very cool. It doesn't happen very
Yeah,
often. So I'm
man.
glad we both like this
And
one so much.
yeah, and I meant to tell you just very quickly. I meant to tell you this before. When I first saw it, I am pretty sure, if my memory doesn't fail me, um, I'm pretty sure that it's one of the last movies I ever watched on Netflix's original DVD service.
Oh wow.
Um,
Okay.
so that was the first time I watched it, was on their
That's
DVD.
very cool. Okay.
Yeah,
And now that you say that, I'm wondering if I didn't watch it that way at the same time because I used to have,
maybe. Yeah,
be part of that. And so, yeah, that would have been, that might be how I
maybe.
watched it as well. That's interesting. All right. Um, Isaiah, anything else you want to say about Black Christmas? Anything else you want to cover or talk about that we haven't already?
Oh, sorry, that was my alarm.
It's okay.
Black cover. Oh, speaking of Black Christmas and covers, Jeff Whitmire. Do you know him? The Weird Al of
I don't.
horror. Okay.
I don't know who that is. I don't
I
think.
highly recommend his music. It's Weird Al of horror. So he takes famous songs and he spoofs them with horror themes and does music videos too on YouTube. So check those out. He has one that spoofs Wham's Last Christmas, but it's Black Christmas.
Oh wow. Okay, I'll have to find that.
So
Yeah.
I'll send it to you.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Was that? What else did you ask me? That's the end of the day, folks.
Yeah. If there was anything else you wanted to talk about or mention that we hadn't before we wrap up here.
No, I think you covered everything I had for Black Christmas here. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, in that case, before we close off here, go ahead and take a minute to tell everybody about your channel and mention anything that you might have coming up in the next couple of weeks here.
Sure. Right. The website is down right now. So as I'm sorting out whatever issues going on with that, the website will be back up. But in the meantime, you can visit Real Bitter Wolf, or the Bitter Wolf Horror and Hijinks is the name of the YouTube channel. And on there, I have interviews with indie horror filmmakers on the Bitter Interview series. I have special panels with different YouTubers and content creators to talk about different horror movie topics. And I also have a project called The Horror Mosaic, which is profiles of filmmakers, artists, musicians, content creators, and fans of the horror community, featuring the world's greatest content creator of them all, Sean of Sean's Horror Corner.
Wow.
So he'll be on there in October. What an honor, Sean. In October,
yeah, that's very cool. Well, thank you so much for saying that, and I'll make sure that I get you the funds that I'm paying you to say that for me, so we'll get that covered. Yep. But yeah, thank you. That was very kind of you. That's right. And you do what you got to do at this point. But yeah, no, thank you so much for coming on. And of course, everybody, I've got some great stuff coming as well. Later this week, I will have a episode coming out, a first time watch for me, Silent Night, Bloody Night from 1972. Never seen that movie. I'm about to watch it here in the next couple of days. I'll have an episode coming out on that in the next couple of weeks. And then we will wrap up September with episodes, Diary of the Dead, The Town That Dreaded Sundown, and The Hills Have Eyes. That's all coming this month before we get into October and start talking about nothing but slashers with a lot of different guests coming on. And that will start with Isaiah coming back and us talking about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So very excited to have you come back when we talk about this one. That'll be a lot of fun. But yeah, if you haven't already, subscribed to the channel, hit the like button, leave me some comments. Let me know what you think about this episode, what you think about the channel in general. I do appreciate the interaction. I love the interaction, actually. Follow me on social media. I'm pretty much on everything out there. Blue Sky, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, X. Just search Sean's Horror Corner. You'll be able to find it. But that will wrap this up. Again, thank you, Isaiah, for coming on. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and I will see you soon.